When collapse begins, it does not announce itself with explosions or sirens. It begins with a delay, a delivery that does not arrive, a signal that flickers and does not return. A hospital that quietly runs out of oxygen at 3:17 a.m. and tells the next ambulance to divert. The first sensation is confusion. The second is denial. By the time fear sets in, the first war has already started, and it is not being fought in the streets. It is being fought inside human nervous systems. Every systemic breakdown in modern history, whether triggered by pandemic, financial crisis, infrastructure failure, or natural disaster, reveals the same pattern. 3 wars emerge. None of them resemble what people prepare for. None of them are primarily about guns, territory, or ideology. They are wars of cognition, logistics, and time. And they decide survival long before visible chaos appears. The first war is the war between perception and reality. When critical systems degrade, human beings do not immediately respond to facts. They respond to expectations. Modern infrastructure is built on predictive continuity. Electrical grids balance load in milliseconds. Supply chains operate on just-in-time inventory models measured in hours, not months. Water treatment plants rely on chemical deliveries scheduled with tight tolerances. The average urban grocery store holds roughly 3 days of food. These are not secrets. They are efficiency achievements, but efficiency removes buffer. When buffers disappear, reality shifts faster than perception can track. This cognitive lag is the most underestimated vulnerability in any collapse. People assume the danger in systemic failure is panic. The evidence shows the opposite. In the early hours of disaster, most populations exhibit what researchers call normalcy bias. Studies following major earthquakes, including those analyzed after the 2011 Tohoku disaster in Japan, showed that a significant percentage of residents delayed evacuation because nothing in their lived experience had prepared them to emotionally accept that this time was different. Emergency management literature consistently documents that initial paralysis and underreaction are more common than hysteria. Even during the early spread of COVID-19, mobility data demonstrated gradual behavioral shifts rather than immediate flight. The misunderstanding is that humans overreact. The hidden science reveals that humans underreact until systems are visibly collapsing. Neurologically, this is predictable. The brain filters threat through prior pattern recognition. If current signals resemble previous minor disruptions, the prefrontal cortex dampens alarm responses. Stress hormones escalate only when sensory evidence becomes undeniable. By then, options have narrowed. This delay is not stupidity. It is a survival adaptation designed for environments where false alarms were costly. In a hyper-complex technological society, however, delayed adaptation can be catastrophic because infrastructure failure cascades nonlinearly. A small perturbation in one sector, such as semiconductor production, can propagate through transportation, medical device manufacturing, and communications hardware months later. The time lag between cause and effect obscures risk until it becomes systemic. The war between perception and reality escalates because information itself becomes unstable during collapse. As communications networks strain, contradictory data circulates. During Hurricane Katrina, conflicting evacuation messages and overwhelmed emergency lines created fragmented situational awareness. In power grid failures, such as the 2003 Northeast blackout in the United States and Canada, millions were initially uncertain whether outages were local or national. That uncertainty shaped behavior more than the outage itself. People did not know whether to conserve, flee, or wait. The cognitive battlefield expanded. Survival implications emerge immediately. The individual who recognizes systemic fragility before visible breakdown preserves mobility and choice. The one who waits for confirmation competes for dwindling resources. Preparedness is not primarily about stockpiling. It is about recalibrating perception. Monitoring weak signals, supply delays, maintenance backlogs, fuel shortages provides early indicators. This is standard risk analysis practice in engineering. Complex systems fail gradually, then suddenly. The transition point is rarely announced. As perception fractures, the second war ignites. It is not fought over resources in the physical sense. It is fought over trust. Modern civilization operates on invisible agreements. Currency holds value because populations believe institutions will honor it. Water flows because maintenance crews are presumed to show up. When infrastructure falters, the question becomes not only whether systems work, but whether they will continue to work tomorrow. Trust erodes faster than concrete cracks. The danger intensifies when institutional messaging lags behind operational reality. In the early stages of financial crises, banks often reassure customers to prevent runs. Yet historical analysis of events, such as the 1930s banking panics, demonstrates that even rumors can trigger withdrawals exceeding available liquidity reserves. Fractional reserve banking functions under stable trust conditions. It destabilizes when withdrawal rates spike. The war over trust is mathematical before it is emotional. When confidence drops below a threshold, the system fails by arithmetic inevitability. Many misunderstand collapse as primarily a law enforcement problem. Images of looting dominate media coverage. Yet peer-reviewed disaster sociology consistently shows that cooperative behavior is more common than violent crime in the immediate aftermath of disasters. Research conducted after earthquakes in Mexico City and Kobe revealed spontaneous volunteer networks forming rapidly. The hidden threat is not immediate social violence. It is gradual institutional disintegration. When repair crews cannot access parts, when fuel deliveries are delayed, when payroll systems fail, the bureaucratic machine that sustains order stalls. Trust decays not because people become monsters, but because coordination mechanisms weaken. Hidden science underlies this erosion. Infrastructure networks are interdependent. Power grids rely on telecommunications for control signals. Telecommunications require electricity. Water systems require both. A failure in one increases load stress in others. This is known as cascading failure, studied extensively in systems engineering. Once feedback loops amplify strain, recovery becomes exponentially more difficult. The public sees isolated outages. Engineers see network instability approaching critical thresholds. Evidence from the Texas power crisis in February 2021 illustrates this dynamic. Extreme weather increased demand while generation capacity decreased due to equipment not winterized for low temperatures. As frequency in the grid dropped toward 59.4 Hz, operators initiated rolling blackouts to prevent catastrophic failure. Had frequency dropped further, physical damage to turbines could have required months-long repairs. The public experienced darkness and frozen pipes. Grid managers saw a near miss of systemic collapse. Trust wavered not because electricity disappeared for hours, but because the margin of safety was revealed to be thin. Survival in the war over trust depends on redundancy and decentralization. Households with alternative water storage, independent heating methods, or backup communication tools reduce reliance on centralized systems. Communities that cultivate local coordination, neighborhood-level planning, shared resource mapping, maintain function even when macro institutions falter. The lesson is not isolation. It is layered resilience. Every additional dependency without backup increases vulnerability. As trust strains, the third war begins, and it is the most unforgiving. It is the war against time. Collapse is often imagined as a singular catastrophic moment. In reality, it is a temporal compression event. Repair timelines lengthen while survival windows shorten. Food stored in refrigerated warehouses spoils within days without power. Hospitals operate on limited generator fuel, often measured in 72-hour projections. Municipal water pressure declines when pumps fail. Biological realities do not negotiate with bureaucratic delays. Time pressure transforms manageable disruptions into lethal crises. Consider water. The human body can survive weeks without food under certain conditions, but only days without water. Urban residents dependent on electrically powered pumping stations may have no gravity-fed backup. Once taps run dry, dehydration risk begins immediately, particularly for children and the elderly. During prolonged outages in Puerto Rico after Hurricane Maria, Lack of clean water contributed significantly to secondary mortality through infection and dehydration. The war against time was not dramatic, it was physiological. Misunderstanding persists because modern life insulates populations from maintenance cycles. Waste removal occurs invisibly. Refrigeration is assumed. Medical supply chains replenish automatically. When timing mechanisms break, decay accelerates. Bacteria multiply in unrefrigerated food, according to predictable growth curves. Carbon monoxide accumulates in enclosed spaces when generators are misused, leading to preventable deaths documented repeatedly during storm-related outages. These are not exotic threats. They are consequences of time interacting with biology and chemistry. Hidden science clarifies why delay kills. Many industrial systems operate with narrow operating tolerances. Backup generators require fuel logistics. Fuel requires transportation infrastructure. Transportation requires functioning refineries and pipelines. When multiple time-sensitive systems align in failure, recovery windows close. Engineers refer to this as loss of resilience due to coupling and tight scheduling. The more optimized a system is for efficiency, the less slack it contains for temporal disruption. Evidence from global supply chain disruptions during the COVID-19 pandemic demonstrates how timing cascades. Container ships queued outside major ports. Manufacturing plants halted due to missing microchips. Medical facilities rationed personal protective equipment. The system did not collapse entirely, but delivery timelines extended dramatically. Shortages appeared not because materials vanished, but because synchronization failed. Time became the enemy. For individual survival, temporal awareness is decisive. Water purification must occur before contamination spreads. Food preservation must precede spoilage. Evacuation must precede congestion. Preparedness frameworks in emergency management emphasize the golden hours concept. Immediate action following a disruptive event preserves the widest range of options. Waiting for confirmation consumes those hours. As these three wars intertwine, perception against reality, trust against uncertainty, time against survival, the escalation phase begins. Resource competition intensifies not because people inherently seek conflict, but because delayed adaptation converges. Grocery shelves empty within hours once buying accelerates. Fuel stations run dry when resupply trucks cannot navigate gridlocked roads. Hospitals triage care when staffing shortages align with patient surges. Each decision compounds stress on the network. The transition from stability to instability is rarely linear. Complex systems exhibit tipping points. Climate research, financial modeling, and epidemiology all identify nonlinear thresholds beyond which reversal becomes difficult. Collapse, in most modern contexts, is partial and uneven. Some regions stabilize while others degrade. This unevenness generates migration pressure. Movement places additional strain on host systems. The wars expand geographically. Yet there is a deeper layer rarely discussed. Beneath perception, trust, and time lies energy. Energy availability underpins all modern function. Electricity, fuel, and caloric intake form the substrate of civilization. When energy flow diminishes, all other systems contract. The war over energy is not fought with weapons, but with thermodynamics. Every pump, server, refrigerator, and vehicle requires it. Without continuous energy throughput, complexity decays. The danger is subtle because energy disruptions may appear localized. Rolling blackouts, fuel rationing, rising prices. But energy decline reduces maintenance capacity. Deferred maintenance increases failure probability. Infrastructure ages without replacement. Bridges corrode, transformers overload. The decay is incremental until it becomes structural. Societies do not collapse because one component fails. They collapse when energy can no longer sustain repair of accumulating failures. Analysis of historical societal decline, from the fall of the Western Roman Empire to more recent state failures, consistently identifies resource and energy strain as underlying contributors. Modern societies are exponentially more energy dependent. Data centers require massive cooling systems. Agriculture relies on mechanization and synthetic fertilizers derived from natural gas. Transportation networks span continents. The energetic baseline required to maintain this complexity is enormous. The misunderstanding is that collapse requires a dramatic external shock. In reality, sustained energy contraction can quietly reduce systemic resilience over years. Hidden science from ecological systems shows that complex organisms and ecosystems collapse when energy input falls below maintenance thresholds. This principle applies equally to technological civilization. Evidence is observable in regions experiencing chronic infrastructure underinvestment. Water main breaks increase. Power outages become more frequent. Public transportation degrades. These are not isolated management failures. They are indicators of shrinking maintenance margins. When margins vanish, shocks that were once absorbable become destabilizing. Survival implications shift accordingly. Resilience planning must account not only for acute disasters, but for chronic degradation. Household-level energy independence, even partial through solar panels with battery storage or alternative heating methods, reduces vulnerability. Community microgrids provide localized redundancy. Water storage and gravity-fed filtration reduce dependence on electrically pumped systems. These measures are grounded in engineering principles, not ideology. Escalation continues when perception finally aligns with reality. At that moment, behavioral shifts accelerate. Financial withdrawals spike. Supply hoarding intensifies. Migration flows increase. Authorities implement rationing to stabilize distribution. Each intervention attempts to buy time. Sometimes it succeeds. Sometimes it merely delays an inevitable contraction. The transition point between recoverable disruption and systemic collapse is often invisible in real time. Analysts identify it only retrospectively. For individuals, waiting for official declarations is strategically dangerous. Monitoring tangible indicators, frequency of outages, emergency declarations, logistical delays, provides more actionable intelligence. As the wars compound, a new dimension emerges, the battle for adaptability. Biological organisms survive environmental change through variation and selection. Human societies rely on learning and innovation. The question becomes whether adaptation occurs faster than degradation. During the London Blitz of World War II, rapid civil defense adaptation, from blackout enforcement to shelter construction, reduced casualties over time. The system bent without breaking. Adaptation absorbed shock, but adaptation requires accurate information, preserved trust, and available time. When misinformation spreads faster than correction, when trust erodes beyond repair, when time windows close, adaptation stalls, collapse accelerates, the final realization is stark. The three wars inside every collapse are fought long before visible anarchy. They are cognitive, systemic, and temporal. Winning them does not require dominance over others. It requires early recognition, redundancy, and disciplined action. Survival is less about force and more about foresight. And as history repeatedly demonstrates, foresight is rare precisely because stability feels permanent until it is.